Welcome to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.
All right. Hello and welcome to episode number 25 of season 2. My name is Tamara and you're listening to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Today's guest is Mike Blocker. We'll be talking about our perspectives on aging and gender differences. And if you like this episode, be sure to tell your friends about it. Thanks for joining me today, Mike.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. And I know we talked about, there was a concept you wanted to talk about first. So why don't we just get started with that and kind of in the title there.
Okay, well, the concept that me and you had a brief conversation on about is something that I've noticed is that, as you were saying, the gender differences in the level of attraction of men and women and what it takes to develop that. And my perspective is that women are approached by men. I like to call it. Can we use adult words on this podcast?
Yeah, it is listed as explicit, but I've been, maybe not like a lot, but it's
Okay.
a few of them aren't bad.
All right. Well, I'm not going to use a lot, but to be technical, I like to jokingly call it the unlimited penis club. And so what I mean by that is women at an early age from puberty, men offer women sex from an early age, and it may be disguised in, hey, you want a cup of coffee? Hey, you want to go out? But ultimately, we all know what's underneath that is the men are saying, I think you're attractive and I would like to have sex with you. And that starts with women from puberty. But men, when we hit puberty, we aren't getting those offers from women. So we, as a man, we have to develop ourselves financially, physically, mentally to get to the stage where we enter the unlimited vagina club, where we have access to a lot of women that want to have sex with us, just like instant. And so for men, our bank account has to have a certain amount of numbers in it, or we have to have a certain amount of assets, or we have to have, more ornaments or trinkets or whatever it is that women are drawn to, the sparkly stuff, so that now we will have a lot of women like coming after us. Now I'm 51, and I would say it didn't start for me and probably until in the past couple of years. So I spent 35 years developing myself to get to this point. And yet women I meet were like, oh, I was going through that when I was 15 years old. And so what I've noticed happens is that when you get to, say, my age group, I'm meeting women who have been having men offer them sex for 30 plus years. So they're over it. They're done with that conversation. They're ready to settle down, meet the, life partner. And then you meet a guy like me who's like, I just got this opportunity to have all of this sex coming at me. I want to enjoy this. And then again, my experience is the women are saying, you should grow up. You should be mature at your age now. You're 50. Why are you still trying to play the field? I'm going, because this is the first time I've ever been able to play the field to this degree. You've been playing this game 30 years. And so men, when I have this conversation, men understand it completely because they can relate. But women generally can't relate to it as much because it, in my opinion, interferes with their agenda to meet a mate and settle down and have that life partner. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with it either way. What I would hope to get from having these conversations is just have a better understanding for men and women to understand that there's nothing wrong. And that's just the nature of the world we live in,
Yeah.
And that's my take on it.
Yeah, and I have talked to a couple of guys about this. I know one that was recently, or a few that were divorced recently. So now this is their chance to finally have that outcome. That now that they're a little older and are not married again or anymore, I should say. But I did have this conversation with a different guy, and he was saying that it could potentially also, like, looks could play a factor in this theory of yours. Like, there might be, yes, there are fewer like very attractive men that may have been wanted like a woman all their lives as well, but it may not be the majority. So what, do you have anything to say on that particular topic? Like looks could be part of
Yes,
it, or
there's also, I would say looks do play a factor because there's another conversation running in the background, and that is generally in our world, men, when we age and we get gray and all that, it's considered distinguished, right? But a
yeah,
woman with the same equivalent of gray, it's not, oh, she's a distinguished woman. It's, there's a different context, and like, oh, she's older or she's aging or whatever. So I think um, there's a belief that men age better than women, or men age gracefully. If you look out in the world of the model images, you tend to see more men be considered attractive at an older age than women. But then that
yeah.
still ties into that conversation of, have you ever heard of hypergamy?
I don't think so.
Okay, so basically, what hypergamy means is that in our world, the value of women is placed upon beauty. That's the main value of women, and the main value of men is on his resources and assets. So, based upon that scale, a woman will have her peak, you know, um, desirability when she's younger because beauty is the value, and
Yeah,
men are going to reach their peak when they get older because it's when you accumulate more resources.
yeah,
So if
yeah,
you look at it through the lens of hypergamy, men are generally going to be more attractive as they age, and women are going to be more attractive when they're younger. And what you'll see a lot also is you'll see, for example, if you have a woman who's a model type woman, model body, model face, and everything, I don't think it's a comparison to how many men she could get and have attracted to her as if you had a man who was like a multimillionaire at whatever age. I think more women would be interested in dating a millionaire because of what he can provide than there are men who are going to say, "Oh, she's pretty, she's beautiful," and so I think because of, and we live in this patriarchal system, so it's basically set up for men to benefit more than women.
yeah,
But I think based upon all these factors, it's set up so that men have a more fair chance in longevity is what I'm seeing. Like men, so to add to what your gentleman friend was saying, men age, and you even look and see it, you'll see the men who are like in their 50s and 60s, and they're not even necessarily in the best shape. But because of their resources, women are still finding them very interesting. It's like, you look at TV all the time. There's the slim, very fit, pretty wife and the not so attractive, out of shape husband. Like it's like you just see it all the
yeah.
time because he has resources. Therefore,
Well, and I did
so
notice you. Sorry, you used the word interested in him versus attracted to him, which was smart of you to say because it may not be the looks, obviously, that they're going for, but the assets, like you said. So
right, yeah, and so that I think your friend was right that attractiveness does play a factor in it, but not as much, more so on the female side than it does on the male side. I mean, an attractive male, of course, you're going to benefit from that because, we all have what we desire as attractive, the object of our eye. But even that, even that is subjective. It's,
yeah, I was going to say
I have
because
some
some
friends
people,
that
there's
love,
lots of different types out there. So some people like, larger, smaller, shorter, taller. So, but what were you going to say?
yes, to answer your question, yes, attractiveness plays a factor in it. And I think not as much as what can you provide from a man. Because biologically, when we get looking at this from a biological perspective, women are biologically wired to look for the man that they believe could provide the highest degree of safety and probability of rearing children is where that comes from. Who is going to be the man that can provide me with all the security, stability, and structure, protection that I need to have kids and give the kids the best chance of them, surviving and thriving. And so, what women look for in that sense is who can provide, these things. And men, coming from a biological perspective, are looking at what woman has the best genes that's going to give me the best son. So we're looking for a woman that's, the tallest, the strongest, the nice bone structure, the body, because, she has good genes, meaning attractive. I want to have a baby with her. And that's running in the background.
Yeah.
So some of it is how we're wired. It's nothing wrong. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. I will add here that there are a lot of people that are choosing not to have children nowadays. And I'm in a Facebook group for child-free dating, and all ages in there as well. But there's a lot more people that don't care about that part of it. And I just want to make sure they have a voice, because they talk about how they always feel kind of just different. But I think there are more and more people are choosing that option. So, I mean, yes, biologically you might find that attractive, but if you have no desire to have kids, then that might be less of a factor. But obviously the assets are on both sides, probably are good nowadays.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to have assets. There's not a problem with having them. And for some people, it's a problem not having them. But it's all choice. It's all perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have anything to add on? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to further what you said about, society is that way. And, men are seen as getting more attractive as they age. And women, I mean, I think nowadays men are becoming more aware of it and feeling the pressure of aging and looking good more than they used to. Back in the day, guys could really care less about that. And it was more gay men that cared about their physical appearance. And now there are more metrosexual men and more people worrying about what people think of them and their looks, especially with social media and being, pictures and everything. So at least men are feeling what the women have always felt, that kind of pressure to look good. But I mean, I think it's much easier to age. I'm actually older than you, and I still have, I eat well and take care of myself. So I like to think, and I talk about my stand-up, that I have the body of a teenager, as someone had said that one to me once. So I don't know why I'm throwing that out there, except for defending those older women that are aging, still looking good. I guess that is my main reason. Yeah. There are plenty of us out there still.
Well, yes, you do have a young physique, and I thought you were younger. And the most attractive thing is confidence, men or women. And the most unattractive thing is neediness. So I think when I meet a woman, it doesn't matter what her age is, when she exhibits confidence and assuredness in herself, then I'm attracted to her, period.
Yeah.
Man, that woman is, she, and it doesn't matter what her resources is or her body is. It's how self-assured, how much does she love herself and accept herself is what's attractive. Because when I see the opposite of that, I start to run from the hills or moonwalk out of that. I'm like, oh no, I'm not getting in another one of these relationships.
Well,
So,
and it's so funny. I just wanted to add that the younger women are still very self-conscious, and even though they look their best, they're going to look probably for their lives. But back at that age, unless they're just gorgeous, of course they might know. But even then, a lot of them are self-conscious and not confident. And it isn't until you reach a certain age that you become confident in who you are. And then it's like all these people look back. I'm in a Facebook group with another like older women, and they all talk about, God, if I wish I only knew how good I looked back then when I thought I was fat or thought I was this and thought I was that. And they had no confidence. So I just agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying about confidence and self-assuredness.
I just heard a woman say that yesterday, that she was saying she regretted the extremes she went to in her 20s to, she didn't want cellulite on her butt. So she was saying how all these, colonics and fasting and enemas, and like, she was like, I went hard, right? She said, and now that I'm in my, she's in her late 40s, she goes, I actually have cellulite now. She goes, I didn't even have it back then when I was so worried about getting it. And she goes, now I'm realizing it never was about that. It's about just accepting myself. So I thought that was so funny, her sharing to the extreme she went to look good and not realizing she was, as you saying, she was at the peak of her beauty, but she thought I should look better or I could be more, attractive. And again, that's ties in because women know there's a value placed on that by men. And so she wanted to be her absolute most valuable version of herself so that she could increase her options to having desirable mates. That
Yeah.
makes sense. But I will tell you this, from dating models, I used to model and be with a couple model agencies. I learned firsthand a lot of the most attractive women I've ever met were the most insecure.
Yeah.
They were the most secure women are generally the, slightly above average, say, women as far as beauty, the extremely beautiful magazine Hollywood women. The ones I've met, man, they were so hard on themselves. They were so judgmental on themselves, trying to live up to this image of beauty that most of them didn't even notice that they were already beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I talk about this and it might sound stuck up or something. I don't know. But I have what used to be the ideal body type, tall, thin, long legs. And before J-Lo and that whole crew and Kardashians of, the bigger butts and all that. Like I used to have women just be like, so like, oh my God, you're so lucky and like envious of me. And I would always say, no, guys prefer some meat on, and it's just funny that now it's like completely that way. And I don't know why I'm sharing that again. I swear it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I remember the days when women were like jealous, and now I'm glad that there is much more broad of what's attractive and what men find attractive. And I don't know. Was that
It's
like,
a whole new world of what's physically attractive now with the whole anti-body shaming campaign and positive body movement
yeah,
out there. That definitely has shifted, and I'm glad. And I'm glad.
yeah,
But now there's the extreme version of it where it's it has become an excuse for some women not to take care of themselves as well. You know, um,
yeah,
I do have an issue personally when I meet women who are technically considered obese and saying stuff like, "I'm big, sexy." I'm like, no, you have a lot of extra body weight, and that's not good for your organs and your heart. And you're like,
yeah,
I got that you're saying you feel good about yourself, and there's going to be a cost to pay for being overweight to that degree. That's where
yeah.
I kind of
Yeah, for you personally.
have a concern.
Yeah, and I know there are other people like that, and then there's the opposite an argument on the other side that says that as long as they're fit and healthy, like if all their tests come out positive or like all the numbers are good, then it's better to be healthy. And then if they're a little big, that's one thing. But I know I've seen that argument often where if a doctor finds them healthy and fit in whatever numbers, the blood pressure and cholesterol and all that kind of stuff, that they defend it that way. But yeah, I mean, I know we both are into coaching and health and stuff like that too. So we may
You know what I say? That's one litmus or one test. But the test that I also go by is what's your level of enjoyment and quality of life. So let's just say if the tests come back good, but your blood levels and everything come back good, but you can't go on vacation and take a hike because you don't have the stamina and you're breathing too hard. So you'll go out on a vacation, oh, I can't enjoy that. Oh, I can't ride that bike. Or I can't go dance at the club because my feet. Then my question is like, well, you're not enjoying life to the fullest because of these physical limitations.
yeah,
That's
yes,
something to consider.
yeah. So if someone's heavier and they can do all the stuff they like, and they're happy, then more
You're
power
great.
to them.
You're great.
Yeah,
You're heavy, but if you're heavy and you can't, then I'm like, I went on a vacation and we went on this guided tour in Colombia, and there was a few heavy people on our tour, and they exempted themselves from anything that was strenuous. If it involved steps or climbing the hill, oh no, we'll wait on the bus. Oh no, and I'm going. You spent $5,000 and you're not taking part in half of the excursions because you don't have the physical stamina, endurance to do this. So you're missing the beautiful view that we got to see from up there because you can't walk up the steps. That's just my take on it.
yeah,
I don't know. But
yeah.
yeah, anyway.
All right. So this segment, I was thinking of, well, we can if there's any myth or anything you think like about women or about men that you want the opposite perspective? Like, I don't know. I don't have anything in mind right now, but if you happen to have something in mind, I would like
Yeah,
from
you
that
know, one
perspective.
thing that I would like to share that I personally distinguished that I think would make a difference. I did a sex and intimacy course a couple months ago, and we had to come up with what our sex act is, like our mask around our sexuality. And what I distinguished that mine was, and I'm sharing this because I want women to hear this and get this, and even men, is you often hear stories of women talking about how they have sex with men when they don't want to because they feel, pressured or obligated. And I want women to know and men to know that men do the same thing. Like I realized this in that course, that there's a lot of times I have sex when I don't want to because I think that the woman is expecting me to desire her, right? And then if I don't try to have sex with her, then she's going to feel rejected or not attractive. Like this guy didn't even try to sleep with me. So there was a lot of times where I didn't really want to have sex, but I knew she was expecting it. So I did it to live into her expectation. And I went through this motion. And there were times where women had objectified me and saw me and were using me as a sex object. And I've done it to many women. And when I'm in the reverse where a woman is, oh, I'm so attracted to you, I got sex with you, I would have sex with them a lot of times, not because I wanted to, because it was their expectation. And I wanted to fulfill their expectation. So when I got present to this, it gave me some freedom around it to powerfully choose to say no, or to just say to a girl, can we just snuggle? I don't need to have sex. Like, I want to be honest with you. And since I've been doing that, what I found is it increases the intimacy between us because they're really touched at my vulnerability and my authenticity around it. And I recently remember doing it with a woman, and she was like, wow, oh my gosh. She was like, I really didn't want to have sex either, but I was going to do it because I thought you wanted to. And I'm like, well, I don't want to really have sex either. I was going to. And so we both were thinking the same thing. And I'm going, how many times have I done that? So the myth I think that I'm addressing is I want women to get that, sometimes men don't necessarily want to have sex. We're going through the motions just like women are. And we have our version of that too. And to just have some compassion and understanding that, we as men have social pressures that we are under, that we're living in. We have our mask too. And we pretend and we do things that are inauthentic because we want to be liked and we don't want to get rejected. So we're doing our version of that. And I want women to know that. And for men to know, take a look and see, are you doing that? And have the courage to let that go and just be your authentic, vulnerable self, because that's when you're going to make the connection a man would make by being authentic about that is better than the connection he would make in pretending and having sex.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, there's probably lots of couples that have both gone through the motion of assuming the other one wants to, and they're like, all right, well, I'll do this for him so we can just get to bed, or and vice versa, like you said. And then also, there was an episode that I did with Leah Carey. She was also featured on the Savage Lovecast, he's like the top podcast in our genre. And she has a great episode about how to talk about sex, and she has an acronym for it and what to say, and to have the conversation before you even start. And that would be a good time to also have that, like, do you even want to do this, or should we? It seems like some people think, all right, we're on date number 4, date number 5, it's time. And doesn't necessarily have to be, like you said, intimacy is just as good, or not, if not better sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. So that would be the biggest thing that I would, I guess if you want to call it a myth, the biggest thing that I've recently discovered about me sexually that I think other men, and then there's one more thing that I think, this is for men specifically, maybe there's a female version of this. The more I started to do work, I took another course about sexuality. I've been doing a lot of work around my sexuality and spirituality lately because they overlap a lot.
Yeah.
And in this process, my sex drive shifted. And I found myself having less desire to have sex, specifically with women who I used to find super attractive. Now I'm not attracted to them anymore. And so I wasn't getting the erection or the drive. So my immediate thought went through that I'm suffering from some type of erectile dysfunction. Like there's a health issue here.
Yeah.
And what I realized is there was no health issue, is that I had a spiritual awakening. And when my spirit awoke and I started bringing more of a spiritual context to sex, my spirit didn't desire to sleep with this stripper or, this girl. There was no desire there. That was all ego before from the past. And now that I kind of shed that, so I'm like, why am I not attracted to this woman? I used to be attracted to girls like her. So what I had to realize, there was nothing wrong with me, because when I met the woman who I had that spiritual emotional connection to, there was no limit in my erection. It was full on strong. So I share that with other men. If you go through a phase where you develop yourself spiritually and emotionally, you may find yourself needing a different level of connection to create that attraction. And like, it doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just means you've grown, you've shifted, and to pick your women accordingly. Once you've made that shift, you're not going to want the same girls you wanted before. Just got to get that up. So that's another.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, and I have 3 things to add about that. The show Love is Blind, they talk about you don't see each other, and they form emotional connections and end up getting like engaged within 6 or 9 days of just having really good conversations. It's a show on Netflix. And then there's an episode with Dorothy. She talks about spirituality and self-pleasure and sex and tantra and all that, and how she even brings like God into the bedroom, because God created people to enjoy their bodies. That's how they were created. And so that was a different perspective I hadn't heard. So I had an interview with her, or an episode with her. And then I had a guy talk about ED on an episode, a couple episodes back. So he talked about the phases it took. Not that you said that was your issue, but just for other men that, it may be that issue instead. He talks about the different potential cures and things, and how it happens over like a long period. So that's a good one to check out for those of you that haven't heard that episode yet. And it is close to wrapping up time. So do you want to share your socials? I know you have some programs and stuff you're involved in. If you want to tell people
thank you.
about it.
First of all, again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I look forward to interviewing you on one of my programs. And so what I have right now, my name is Mike Blocker. I am a best life coach, relationship coach, and my website is called thechrysaliscoaching.com. And you can find me there. I'm on Facebook as Mike Blocker, your best life coach. And Instagram, I hate to say, I don't even know I'm sorry. That's my Instagram, your best life coach, Mike Blocker. My Facebook, I'm on Mike Blocker or Chrysalis Coaching. You can find me there. So the program that I'm going to be launching in the next probably 2 weeks is called Best Love Now, because I coach on relationships. So it seems like it's a relationship for couples, but it's really about relationships, period. And how do you cultivate and develop healthy relationships? So that's one of the biggest things I'm in, because life is a series of relationships. That's all it is. It's one relationship after another, starting with the relationship with yourself. So if you master relationships, you're great. So I wanted to share that. So yeah, and I do one-on-one coaching, some group coaching. I have a transformational book club that I do every Tuesday night. Currently, we're reading Financial Recovery. The next book is going to be called The Emotional Code. That's every Tuesday. So that's basically what I got going on. More stuff coming down the pipeline. And I love supporting people, making contacts and new relationships. So I'm open to collaborations, joint efforts, or whatever I can do to make a difference, spread the word, and support people in creating the life they love. That's my passion. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I love it.
My stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'll make sure it gets in the description as well, and make sure I get the spelling of the chrysalis, and we'll put it in the description. And then, but yeah, I mean, I love all those programs. I have the same passion. I want to have people live out their secret dreams. For me, it was stand-up comedy, and it took me 20 years, but I finally did it. And I know a lot of people have like those deep down secrets they really want to try and haven't done. So I'm all about having them choose to do that. So we're kindred spirits and that kind of thing. But thank you again. And I hope everyone loved the episode, and I'm sure they did or will when it airs. I always, it'll be out in a couple weeks. So not that they won't know this when they're listening, so I'll probably edit this part out. But anyway, thank you very much for being on. It was an awesome conversation. I think a lot of people learn a lot of things. And if you liked it, please give us a review of the episode. And once again, you are listening to Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. And thank you all.
To the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.